What is up, YouTube? Johnny B here again today, and we're gonna be working on my FRS. A long time ago when I did this Treno badge install, I decided that I wanted to delete the mesh part of the grill. I didn't really like the way it looked, and ever since then there's been a huge gap here with nothing to fill it, so it just kind of looks weird. But now I got something. It's gonna be a nice addition to the front end, and it's gonna fill up the space and just make it look so much better. So we're gonna go ahead and install that in this video. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do before we can add anything to the front is we're gonna need to remove the front bumper so we can have easier access to everything. So let's go ahead and take it off. All right, so now that we have the bumper off, I needed to go ahead and remove this horn just because it's in the way, because we're gonna be installing something that covers basically this whole area. Look at this. I don't know how to play this instrument, but we're gonna be installing one of these. This is literally gonna cover the whole front. But the reason I'm gonna install this before I even go ahead and install the full turbo kit is because I need to install something that goes in front of it or behind it, and I need to figure out where I'm gonna put it to see where it's gonna fit. So let's go ahead and install the intercooler, which at this moment, without a turbo, is gonna be an intercooler because everybody's gonna think I'm boosted and I'm really not. So we're just gonna slide this in. Go. You want to make sure that the top hangers line up with these holes in the reinforcement bar. I'm gonna go ahead and slide the bolt. Make sure it's all lining up first, obviously. There we go, all the way through. Now the other one. We're gonna put some lock washer nuts, so they have like a little plastic trim in here so they don't come loose. We're gonna put them on through the back. So this is what we're actually gonna be installing for this video. It is the Perrin Oil cooler for the FRS BRZ, and it's pieced around with various parts, but they sell it as a Perrin kit because they're the ones that piece it all together, and then they make nice little adapters and spacers and things like that. So this is going to be the actual oil cooler. You can see there, that's the brand, Setrab. Not really sure how you pronounce that, if I pronounced it correctly, but it seems to be one of the highest quality ones in the market. It is a bit smaller, but it's still a really good oil cooler. And then here this is our sandwich adapter. So this is where we're actually going to be feeding the oil cooler, and this is going to be the return line and everything. It actually comes equipped with a thermostat, so that way it only opens up when it gets up to temperature and we actually need to cool down the oil, because you don't want to have super cold oil. The oil needs to be at a certain temperature for everything to operate correctly. So this is a big plus when looking into doing an oil cooler. You want to make sure it has a thermostat in it. It's going to help out a lot. This right here is the Perrin spacer. So this is going to space this, and it's going to go directly on top like that, just so that the hoses can clear the little shroud that's on our OEM filter area. And then this is going to bolt it all down together. So it's a pretty simple concept. All of the kits are exact same concept. Obviously some parts are different here and there, but I got a really good deal on the Perrin, so I went ahead and went with this, even though it's one of the more expensive ones. So I was glad to go with this. It was actually a subscriber hooked me up with this, which is awesome of him. I actually got it for about half price of what they're worth. So that's why I decided to go with the Perrin, just because it's a really high quality, especially if you look at the hoses, they're really high quality. So it's gonna be a cool kit to install, and I definitely need this Since I'm going to be going boost here in the future, it's one of the best supporting upgrades you could do when you're boosted. So let's go ahead and start installing it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove the oil filter. You have to make sure you wait a little while just to make sure it's not hot. I'm just going to go ahead and remove it now. There we go. So here is our original area for the filter. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to get the spacer right here, and we're going to put this thing down first. Make sure you try to center it a little bit. Doesn't need to be perfect. And then next we're going to need this sandwich adapter. Go ahead and put it. It doesn't even fit. Here you want to angle it to where it's not in the way. Now we're going to go ahead and install this, which is going to hold it all together. Now we're going to go ahead and torque it down. You want to make sure you tighten it down, but you don't want it to be too tight. It's kind of hard to get it. The socket I'm using is a 1 1/16 inch to tighten this down. There we go. You don't want too much pressure on it. I looked everywhere and there is no specific torque rating to tighten this down. But obviously when you do an oil filter, you don't tighten down too much. Same thing with this. You just want to tighten it down to where it's nice and snug and it's not moving around. Like right here, it's still moving, so I'm going to have to tighten it down a little bit more. These are the hoses that came with the kit. As you guys can see, they look pretty professional, really high quality hoses, and they have some nice fittings on the ends of them that are already on there from when you get them. As you can notice, one of them is actually shorter than the other. Don't be alarmed. They obviously go to like different sections of the oil cooler, so how you see it here is how they're going to be bolting onto the cooler. So I'm going to show you guys how to go ahead and put these on now. There they are. Just like that, they go right underneath the headlight. Now we have to line them up. The shorter one is going to go on this side. Then the longer one will go on this side. Make sure you angle them properly so you can put them on there. Before I tighten them down, I'm going to go ahead and connect them on the cooler also. Okay, so now we're going to take the oil cooler and we're going to go ahead and place it on these little mounting brackets, and we're going to go ahead and bolt them down. Okay, so now that you've figured out where you want to install it, or you can go ahead and also install it in the holes that are already made in this little bottom piece of plastic. If you want to set it up in a different place, you could always drill holes and make sure to just line them up. And since these have some play in them, it's fairly easy to make the holes, and you can adjust them to make them fit. This is the bolt that it comes with. It comes with a big washer, so that way you can just put it in through the bottom and it'll hold to the plastic with no problem. So let's go ahead and put this on. And I've already put the other one on, so I just want to show you guys. All right, so now after you got it all the way through, it's just a matter of trying to get it aligned and then bolting it down. Now that you have it all in place, you can go ahead and tighten every single bolt down. All right, so now that we have it mounted where we want it, I'm gonna go ahead and take off these little covers that come with the cooler. And then now we can go ahead and hook these up. So as you guys can see there, they line up pretty good. You just want to go ahead and put them to a place where they're not causing too much tension. And then it's pretty simple. They have a little O-ring, so they just have to bolt on. Now we're going to go ahead and tighten down these AN fittings that go on the thermostat housing. These are 1 inch The ones that were on the oil cooler were 1 inch and 1/16. I don't know what it equates to in millimeters, but those are the only wrenches I have that actually fit. Okay, so provided with this kit are these zip ties, which are meant for you to zip tie the hoses together because you don't want them moving around. If there's too much movement with these hoses and they're rubbing next to a metal or something, it could literally just cut straight through them with the vibrations. So you want to make sure you zip tie them to avoid any sort of vibrations and keeps them nice and together, you know, nice and snug wherever you're gonna have them. You can just go ahead and zip tie as much as you want. There's actually a ton of zip ties and I don't think I'm gonna use all of them, but I'm gonna use a decent amount. As always, you wanna make sure that this is gonna clear your bumper too, but as you can see, there's some wiggle room. The hoses still move. And if they're leaning on your bumper, they're not really gonna get. All right, so since we installed the oil cooler, we're gonna need an extra quart of oil. Luckily, I have some extra left over. Let's go ahead and put it in. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for the video. I hope they helped you out. It wasn't really a how-to, but it was just more of me just installing this with a little bit of extra shown detail. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. Don't judge me too hard. Obviously, this wasn't a super professional install, but we got the job done with the tools that we had. And now what you have to do is turn on the car and run it for a little while and make sure you look at all the lines, make sure none of them are leaking. Some of them are leaking. You might need to change O-rings, or obviously if you have a kit that's brand new, you can actually just go ahead and tighten it down a little bit more. You just want to make sure that you have 0 oil leaks, because if you have any oil leaks and you don't notice them, your car engine will explode without oil. So that's a top tech tip, I guess you can say. That's going to be it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, you guys have a great day.